Home processing.
Yeah.
I am so thrilled about processing my own black and white. We're talking about black and white today. But, a lot of times I'm confused, and I will call Leslie because she is, using alchemy. You're using different developers. Why don't I just turn it over to Leslie, and she'll give us kind of the scoop, the primer of the basics of black and white developers at home.
Actually, the whole thing started with, we were talking developers. He said, we should do a segment on what developers are your standards. What do you have in your darkroom? And I really use about 4. For a lot of people, that may be too many. My go-to developer, though, and I've used like Microdol and T-Max, and I've used D76. But D76 is not my go-to developer like it is Mike's. All in all, there may be a couple reasons for that. Mm-hmm. It could be as simple as the chemistry of your local water. Yep. I do mix most of my developers out of the tap. Ooh. And that may be why it works for me and not work for you. Mm-hmm. So you do have to find your own go-tos. Mm-hmm. Number one go-to for me is Xtol, which is a Kodak powder developer. It is... I find it's true box speed. If the box says 400, I shoot it at 400, and my meter, of course, is accurate, or my head is accurate. That's what I get. I get good negatives, consistent negatives, fine grain developer. It gets its fine grain because it's a solvent developer.
Xtol.
Xtol. Mm-hmm. By the way, folks listening, get your pen out. Start making notes because I'm already asking Leslie.
He's ready. He's got all this stuff.
Xtol.
Xtol.
T-O-L.
O-L.
Okay.
Xtol.
A solvent developer slightly reduces your resolving power a little bit, but it redistributes the grain. And when Kodak introduced this years ago, they said that it gave negatives that were 10% greater with equivalent sharpness and grain over their D76. And I think, oh, I got to use this. Well, you did use it. I really liked it. It's a vitamin C developer. So I feel it's a little greener. Feel it's a little safe around kids. Probably not. And I use it 2 ways. I use it as a stock. Use it, pour it back. Use it, pour it back. And then I have stock that I have never used, mixed up, that I use it if I'm going to develop or dilute it, 1 part water, 1 part developer. Or if it's really fresh, 1 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
Unrecommended.
Fresh, you slap it.
Yeah. If I slap, yeah. Anyway, and a lot of people like to use Xtol to do push processing.
That's what I was using when I was doing it.
And
what does that mean, push processing?
That means having a 400 speed film, shooting it for 1600, compensating with your developer for your essentially underdeveloped or underexposed negatives.
Stop right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's very key because many times, let's say you're shooting something, it's low light, and you don't want to use a flash.
Yes.
You could take your 400 speed film. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could crank it to 1600 ISO.
Yes. But
that makes a big difference.
I do not like Xtol for pushing. I use a different developer for that.
Well, let's save that.
We are going to save that.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
now,
hold on.
it is a powder developer. Some of us use liquid. They're very easy to mix up. Mm-hmm. The sweet part about this, it is an A part, B part mixed together. You don't have to use it A and B later on. It mixes at room temperature. You don't have to get your water 128 degrees to initially mix this up.
No.
It dissolves very, very easily.
Yeah, it's easy to mix.
Very easy to mix. So, put the recommended amount of water in for A, put A in, stir it, dissolves. It's pink.
No.
Yes. And then you pour in the powder B. It disappears. The rest of the water, you're done. You can, because you can mix this at room temperature, it's very easy to use it almost immediately. Disadvantage.
Yes.
Years ago, they had packaging issues with this, and there is nothing today made that's any smaller than 5 liter. And I do know that we have a very international listening base, but here in the U.S., they're still selling us only quart and gallon chemistry containers. And this mixes up 5 liters. So I use Arizona tea bottles. I don't drink tea, but plenty of people do. They're dark. They're bigger. They have hand grips on them, and that's what I put my Xtol in.
The initial mixing makes 5 liters.
5 liters.
And then you distribute it once mixed to liter bottles and seal it.
Exactly, yes. Okay. And then I usually mark them then with the date and one is marked stock used and stock unused. So I always know, if I'm going to dilute, I'm going to use out of the stock unused.
Stock means that's the solution you're going to use, then pour it back and keep it.
Correct.
A 1-to-1 means that's a bottle that you're going to mix with water and then get rid of.
It is considered one shot.
One shot.
One
Yep.
shot.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
That's my preferred
I'm
way
making
of
my
using
notes
it.
here. I'm listening right along with you guys at home.
The other disadvantage of this developer is it dies quickly, meaning, and I always say an ugly death. You don't have a warning. It doesn't smell funny. It doesn't turn yellow. So I keep track of the rolls that I process, and then I never have a problem. And I think very much like Matt Marrash, I do not find a false economy in my developers, and especially in this one, because if Mike sends me some film that doesn't have developing times, it's something odd, or if I'm testing a camera out, I know it's not my developer if something's wrong. If something is thin, meaning a negative that does not have enough exposure, it means either I have a camera problem, not enough exposure, but it's not because I overused my developer. It's my constant, it's my standard.
For 1 liter,
Yes.
the standard stock solution, it seems getting a little scary here because the solution I use, which is D76, it
Yes.
just doesn't die on you. It just starts to weaken. Am I correct in saying that?
You are correct.
You'll notice your negatives are getting a little thinner or whatever, or not as. So, how many
right
rolls?
off the edge. There's no graduation to this.
How many rolls will you get out of a 1 liter bottle?
I would stop at 20. Or if I'm diluting at 40.
Okay.
So that's still quite a bit through
Okay.
there. Yeah.
How long will it last on your shelf if properly sealed?
I don't like to let it go beyond 4 or 5 months, maybe 6, properly sealed, air out. And I use it quite a bit. That's why this isn't the developer for everyone.
Gotcha.
5 liters is a lot.
It is.
And it is not something that lasts a year. Its advantages to me and the fact that I do have a decent volume of film are worth it.
Why does it just die? Like, how come it just drops off like that?
I don't know. Maybe because it's a vitamin C developer and the chemical choices.
There's being a simpler developer like that, as it oxidizes, it just dies very, very quickly. There's not a lot of extra chemistry like preserving it. It's just it goes when it goes. There's some other chemistry you could add in aside from it could be suspended in, well, no, it's vitamin C, so it's easier to suspend it in water. Some other developers you can suspend in aqueous solutions that aren't water, so it doesn't oxidize as quickly. And I can talk about that with the developer of my choice.
Okay.
There's 2 ways to contain that. But yeah, just because of the nature of water, there's a lot of oxygen in that. And then when you open it up, close it, mix it around, it's very prone to dying quickly if you are using just the stock and not replenishing it.
People do that, yes.
Yep.
I typically don't.
How do you replenish it?
You have your stock solution, and they usually use about 50 milliliters or so, something like that.
something
It's
like
not a
that.
lot. You've got your stock that you use, pour back and use, and after your developing session, you just take about 50 milliliters of that, throw it away. And then you take stock that has never been used, pour it back in.
Revitalizes it.
Yeah,
You
and it's a
revitalize it.
replenishing stock. So basically,
Yes.
you just out
And
with the old, in with the new.
People can get a lot of miles that way.
Yeah.
And is this your go-to, the Xtol?
This is my go-to.
Please continue on.
Rodenol.
Heard a lot about this.
Rodenol.
There's
About
You
a
know
year or
what?
so ago, a lot of FPP guys, yourself, guys, were all Rodenol'd out.
Oh, I'm not.
Oh, it's
I'm no Rodenol guy.
Some call it
Well,
Rodenol.
they do,
Some
yeah.
call it Rodenol.
Yep.
This is a developer that has been around over 100 years. It's almost indestructible. I know. And it comes as a liquid.
Liquid.
So you mix when you process. It's a one shot. Survives in its half-used bottle for
Years. With air.
with air.
Without air. With air.
With air, it doesn't matter.
Can't kill it.
Can't kill it.
As a solution before you mix it.
Yeah,
Correct.
As a stock.
And then when you mix it, you use it. There are many dilutions available.
Okay.
And a lot of people like Rodenol for stand development. Stand development is almost foolproof because stand development is using an incredibly diluted developer over a long time. So when you think about, I'm going to develop a film for 6 minutes in Xtol, and the phone rings, and all at once you look, it's gone 7 minutes. It's a lot of overdevelopment.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're going to dilute this 1 to 100, and it's a 60-minute, and it's gone over 5 minutes, who cares? What's 5 minutes in the scheme of an hour?
You go walk the dog.
You can go walk the dog. And there's stand and semi-stand.
Yep.
I'm a kind of a semi-stand person. Stand developing, like I said, is a long, diluted time and developer dilution. And you agitate it at first, and you leave it go.
Right, okay.
60 minutes. Semi-stand, drop by it about a half an hour.
Drop by. Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, how you doing in there? Give it just a little swirl or two, and come back.
Yep.
And if you have a roll of film that's old, you have a roll of odd film, give it some stand development and Rodenol, and it's about the best you can do.
Is that right?
It is. And I have fallen out of grace. I just didn't like, I loved Plus X. I didn't like T-Max 100. I've used my share. I've got my times down the whole bit, but I do like it in Rodenol stand development.
T-Max?
T-Max. Yeah, T-Max 100.
Okay.
It's got some grain.
Yeah.
It does.
What does?
Rodenol.
Oh.
Yeah. So when 35 miniature films came into being, it kind of hit its downward slide at that point.
Oh, it's so old, the developer, that
yes.
folks use it for large format.
They did. They did.
Yeah.
And then they started messing with the dilutions. They got a little more controlled, and now it's found its happy place among us, and away we go. And a lot of people use my... Oh, any questions about Rodenol, Mike?
Doesn't seem like something I'd be interested in.
No.
What is the various like 1 to 1, 1 to 100, 1 to 10?
1 to 100 is pretty common, isn't it?
1 to 100 is pretty common. Some do 1 to 2. There's also 1 to 50 that are a lot of people using 1 to 50.
Yep.
Those are a lot of times that you will find on massive development chart.
Is this a photographer's formulary product? Where do you find it?
This is currently an AGVA product.
Yep.
They're calling it R909.
R09, yeah.
Yes.
They don't call it Rodenol?
No, because the actual
It's PD, right?
Rodenol is gone.
Yes. This is supposedly the same. There's Rodenol.
There's Adenol.
And Rodenol Special.
Yep.
Special.
Special.
Okay.
Yeah, which used to be Studenol, I think. Something
Studenol.
Like that.
Yeah, Strudelol.
Strudelol.
Okay, I have no questions because I don't think I'm using it.
I also have a bottle of HC 110 on the shelf.
Okay, well, you know what? Back up real quick. Rodenol, you said if you get in a roll of 1957 exposed film, that's what you would use Rodenol
That
for?
or HC 110.
Oh.
Either one of those.
Okay. HC 110 is...
Actually, I keep the Rodenol around, and I will use it actually more for T-Max 100 if I shoot some.
Okay, you just like the way it looks.
Yes, much better than T-Max and, for me, Xtol.
Okay.
Rodenol, yeah, that's primarily why it's around.
HC 110.
HC 110.
That reminds me of school.
It does?
When you...
Oh, did you use that?
Up at Bill on the Hill, when
Bill
I
on the
went
Hill.
to university with John, they had HC 110s there.
Huh, okay.
That was pretty common. Yeah. It's a liquid as well.
Yep.
You can mix it up into a stock and then further dilute for working, or you can just draw off what you need and go right to your working.
Yeah, a lot of people like that. They have a little syringe on the syrup, and they just bring it out and do their dilution.
I do that. Leave the little foil in the top and put the syringe through there.
So when you're saying as a one shot?
Yes.
So when you say the syringe, you're only using enough for your little tank, you're saying?
Yeah,
No
so
kidding.
people like use a syringe, they'll draw up a couple mils, and they'll do their dilution. Like usually, that's the people that are doing the really high dilutions, dilution H kind of stuff, and they'll draw from the bottle, and the syrup bottle lasts a long time.
What's the standard way of using it?
There's like
Dilution
5.
B is probably the most common. It does oxidate, so a lot of people, because now you cannot buy the small 8-ounce bottle anymore.
Again with this.
I
Gotta
know.
buy the big
This is a
stuff.
big 16-ounce. They'll use a amber glass bottle, and they will simply divide this down into 4 small units, fill those others right up to the top, put it away. Should you do that, that's a 4 to 5 year shelf life. Opening
good.
that
That's
up,
pretty good.
breaking it down, filling them to the top.
Okay,
4 to
let's back
5
up
years.
here, just so I
Yes,
get. Is this
yes.
called Solution B?
This is just breaking down the syrup.
That's the stock. Yeah.
Okay.
So you got this bottle of syrup
Okay.
as a because of its consistency.
Yes.
You've got a 16-ounce bottle, so you either going to have to put marbles in it or something. You don't want that air in there.
Okay.
Whereas a lot of people will simply get 4 or 5 smaller bottles, fill them up, tighten that lid down, and they don't go to them until they need them. And they'll
Still not diluted.
still not diluted, still in syrup form.
Okay. And you're saying put them in smaller bottles.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why would
So
you
they
want
don't oxidize.
So they don't oxidize. And
Because
then
as you
will-
start using the solution, you have air.
Yeah, you're letting
Yes.
oxygen in. Yeah.
Okay.
and at that point, you're going to get 4 to 5 years storage out of those
Okay.
because you're opening the smaller units.
And once you mix a solution, a working solution, with HC110, is it one shot?
That's it.
Working, yes, but I find it confusing. There's 2 dilutions.
Okay.
You can mix a stock dilution,
That's what I want to hear about.
and then later on you'll mix your working from it.
Okay.
Whereas a lot of people just prefer to go, today I'm going to be doing film. They pull out the amount for the working dilution. You get both of them. Got your water up to temp. That's such a small amount. You're ready to go. And then that truly is it's always one shot. No one develops from stock, do they? They always dilute it further for working.
Yeah, I don't know many folks that create a work. I think
Yeah.
it's just for if you're doing a huge.
I
a
think
huge
so.
volume
Most
at a
everybody
time.
pulls what they need that
That day,
instant and
yeah.
go with it. D76 is the standard. When Kodak releases a developer, they often compare it to their own
Mm-hmm.
D76. So HC110 Dilution B, they considered it slightly less shadow detail than D76.
Okay.
Slightly finer grain, though, than D76.
Yes.
But it is one of those that's almost kind of hard to mess it up. I use this, especially now when we get this 1957 film. A lot of age fog to this.
Yep.
It's a low fog film. Keeps that fogging down.
Okay.
So that's really where HC110 shines for me. You can also, because this is a low fog, if you want to mess with it and find your time, people do technical pan in this too. Because we know
No.
Technodol developer is no longer manufactured.
Right.
But if you have some, it fogs so easy in other developers. But this will hold the fog down.
Okay. Hold down that fog.
Hold down that fog.
Okay, that's number 3.
That's number 3. Here's the magic one.
Okay, magic.
Diaphine.
D-I-A.
Fine.
Fine.
F-I-N-E. It is so fine, my Diaphine.
Is this a Kodak product?
This is not.
Okay.
This is an independent. They make 2.
I'm all ears.
Accufine, Diaphine. Diaphine, incredibly simple to use.
I'm liking what I hear.
Takes your film out to its maximum speed, doesn't build the contrast up. So when I'm shooting 1600 with Tri-X, sweet. Got some Panatomic X around,
Sweet.
160 speed essentially. Comes in a box, inside 2 metal cans. Metal cans, isn't that what
They look like little paint cans.
They
Yeah,
do.
yeah, sure,
They got
sure.
a big old A stamped on it and a big old B stamped on it.
Okay.
It's okay. Just mix it up.
They're powder?
Powder. A goes into A, B goes into B. If you ever get any of B from mixing or developing later on into A, throw it away.
F.
Yes, it is contaminated. This is not a cheap developer. The retail is about $59 a gallon. Whoa. But you will mix it up, and if you don't contaminate, you'll use it for a couple
Okay.
years.
The 2 paint cans that you receive in the
2
box.
little ones, yes.
How many gallons do they make?
They make a gallon of A and a gallon of B.
That's all they make.
That's all they make.
Okay, I'm waiting to hear what do you happens with A and B
What happens with A and B?
once they're mixed with water?
Here we go. They put them on the shelf. You're ready to go. Here is the order in which you process. Load your film on the reel.
Yes.
No pre-wet.
Ah.
Essential. No pre-wet. There's also no temperature. Oh, it's 75. I have to do this. There's none of this. You pull it off the shelf. You use it.
So
there
you
are
could-
no published temperatures.
No way.
No, so this is a great field
So you could do
developer.
it in the summer. You could be up in the Arctic by John Carpenter's The Thing.
Well,
wherever you are.
You can, but
You
if
can't
you
be-
got ice crystals in there, that might be a little
Yeah,
too
you
cold.
can't be too cold.
Yeah.
Just average. If
Average,
it's,
yeah.
50 degrees, if it's 70 degrees.
Yeah, like 50 or higher. Yeah, you want to be
Oh,
up.
yes.
Yeah.
So, A, pour it in. Minimum of 3 minutes. I usually do 4 because I get interrupted. It's not a big deal.
Okay.
Minimum of 3. It's kind of like self-terminating. Not really, but...
No.
Okay.
The film can only absorb so much of A.
And this is what it's doing.
Okay.
It's absorbing. So, minimum of 3, I usually do 4. No rinsing. Here's another no water step. B goes in.
Well, let me ask a question. What do you do with the A? Is it
A pours back. You reuse it.
now? What happens to all the dye from the film because you didn't pre-wash it?
It'll
It
get in
kinda-
there. It's fine.
Yeah.
Who cares?
You know,
It's just
yeah.
dye.
It's just
okay.
dye.
Please
Doesn't
continue.
affect anything else later on. So B goes in. Same amount of time, 4 minutes.
Okay.
Now, the secret to Diaphine
Yes.
is the agitation. You do not, it's very gentle. I usually use a Patterson tank, which is inversion.
Oh yes.
I do not on this. I use the little rod.
Swizzle sticks.
The
Swizzle
little
stick.
swizzle sticks. And that agitation, even though they recommend 5 seconds of every 30, I may only give it 2 spins.
You don't
Two
give it a
gentle
a
spins.
tumble like I do.
No,
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 'cause
because you
it's-
don't
You
want
would
to
think I was making cream.
Yeah.
you don't want to rinse A off. B's activating with it. And if you get too aggressive with B, you don't get your full development.
Okay.
So that's the secret to it, is watch the agitation.
Gentle.
Gentle. So B's done. Pour B back. 30-second rinse in water, and then you fix and wash as you normally do. So 3 minutes A, 3 minutes B, you get done.
And you can reuse it.
Absolutely.
Does it die an instant death when it's
No. Thinking,
How long will this last?
at least a year. At least a year. But we're probably really talking 2 years.
Wow.
This is an older developer.
Is there a roll count, or does it just last 2 years?
No, it doesn't exhaust with use.
So it's worth that $50.
I think so. Yes, for me, it's the nicest pushing developer I have. Like I said, the highlights don't block up. The grain is really unusually fine, considering we've now manhandled this film to 1600.
Wow.
And if you have, you're out shooting and day's going good, and then all at once the light gets dim, shoot anyway and just soup the whole thing.
Well, let me ask you a quick question about Diaphine. That's what we're
Yes.
talking about. When you shot your 400 ISO film at 1600, did you alter the developing time? Did you push or pull?
This is called pushing film, yes.
So
Alter my developing time?
Yes.
No, because that's what this developer is made for, is pushing film, odd exposures, wonky exposures. It gets the most out of a film that's possible.
no way.
I wouldn't necessarily probably shoot Tri-X at 200 and put it in here. That's not what this developer's for.
If you shoot it at box speed, you shoot 400 at 400, it's fine. Great.
It's okay. Use a regular developer. But if you're not sure, I had a friend that was testing out a camera.
Now I get
and
it.
she, this camera didn't meter the same as that camera. Here's my negs. I said, ooh. She goes, can you take the rest of the film? It was 4 stops underexposed. I just put it in Diaphine.
Underexposed or overexposed?
Underexposed. It was not giving her enough exposure. So I put it in Diaphine to gain that back through a chemical process, and she had printable negs.
Fascinating.
It's
Under or over?
under.
Preferably under.
Preferably under. And right now, one of the films that you sent me to use was the Schwema Blue,
Yes.
the Blue Sensitive. It's about a 1.5 ISO,
Yep.
and I have it to 6. Woohoo!
ISO 6.
But I'm thinking, after I saw the negs, I can probably go to 8 or 10 with
Okay.
this. And
Which
I
for some
love
people
the results.
might really work. For example, if you're shooting a Shimina Blue, which is an ISO 1, whatever, what is it?
1.5.
To shoot something ISO 12 is so much easier because you could set your meter to 25 and all you have to do is compensate one stop.
And some meters go to 12.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
It's just so easy to use. And let's face it, Kodachrome started off as 10. It was good enough for us then. But
Wow.
yeah,
See, so Diaphine
Diaphine.
is a specialty.
it is.
I did not know that, Matt.
I would consider it, yes, a specialty.
What other notes do you have about Diaphine?
That's it.
That's it.
The instructions are printed on the outside of the box. You think, is that all there is to it? That's all there is to it. There's no temperature taking. 3 minutes, 3 minutes, or 4 minutes and 4 minutes. The secret is the gentle agitation.
Right. And of course, you're doing
it.
1 or 2 rolls at a time, and it's a gallon jug.
But you know what else is nice?
No, what?
Think about this. Got to roll a Plus X, got to roll a Tri-X, got to roll a Ilford something.
Throw it all in.
Can all go in. It's always the same time for everybody.
Wow.
Pretty cool.
And so you would choose Diaphine as a developer only for rolls of film that you're push. Is it called push or is it called?
This is called pushing when you rate it higher.
Underexpose. You rate it higher. You wouldn't if you were to. Here's the quiz questions for Leslie. If you're just shooting a film at box speed, you would grab which developer?
Xtol.
Xtol. I'm guessing the Rodenol, you're not using that often.
No, I'm not.
What would you use the HC110 for? Wait. I was going to say it. Go ahead. Old film.
Yeah, fogging.
See, now I'm really psyched. It sounds to me like the Diaphine is fine because you don't have to sweat it because you could just keep it on the shelf for years.
There you go.
And what type of death will it die? A slow death.
Yes, very slow.
Agonizingly slow.
Agonizing. You know.
You'll get just so tired of seeing that same bottle on your shelf that you'll just mix up a new batch.
I do a mercy mix.
Because you're like, this is 2 years old. I'm just going
Or they don't even remember the last time they did. They're just like, all right, let's mix it
Or
up.
I've worn the A and the B off the caps, and I don't remember which it is.
And you don't worry about the color or the
No.
schmutz that gets in the bottles or
the A right now
the stuff
is
that's floating in
very yellow.
there.
Oh, you can filter if you want.
Yeah.
Coffee filter it.
Yeah.
It says if it does get a precipitant, just filter it out.
Okay.
Have back at it.
If you were to, I don't know why folks do this, but I see it so often on threads that people who shoot like Portrait 400 and they decide to process it as black and white. What developer would you use to process color as black and white?
I'd use something a little more aggressive.
Oh, you would?
Like your D76 stock or something. Just
Probably,
because it's going to be
or
very
maybe
flat.
one of the HC110
Yeah.
dilutions.
Yeah, because it's going to be very flat when it comes.
is.
I've done this accidentally a
Or
couple
the
times.
Xtol and just agitate the
Yeah.
life out of it type
Portrait
of thing.
400 is really the best black and white film, but you're paying a lot to
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
waste it. Yeah.
But
And is there directions on Diaphine to tell you, like, don't pre-wet? Like,
yes,
there are.
They go right through it. No pre-wet. No rinse. A, B.
Yeah, it's right on the can.
Right on the can. I was going to say, and there's one more developer I use occasionally.
Yes.
And it's also one that you use, and this is a photographer's formulary developer, because Kodak no longer offers Technodol.
yes.
And I do have some Tech Pan around, but this is also excellent for these microfilms, micro-type films.
Yes.
Or a high contrast film. It's a low contrast developer. It's pretty darn economical. You don't, you TD3.
D3.
Technodol 3. And I really carry that or use that now because of some of these weird.
Like Eastman 5363 high
Yes,
contrast.
Yes, exactly.
Have you shot that yet?
I have.
Okay.
And it keeps that contrast down.
Do you have TD3 in-house?
Only yes, for my own use.
For your own
yes,
use.
yes.
And do you can you go step through that really quickly, like generally speaking, how do you mix it? Is it a stock solution?
It is they supply it in 2 containers.
Okay.
And it is liquid, and then you mix right before use,
Yes.
and it is considered one shot, like the Technodol developer was too. You could use it once or maybe twice with extended time. I don't have the paper in front of me. I don't use it often, but instructions are very easy, and that's it. You just soup it like a normal developer once you mix it according to directions.
And this is a product of some place called the Photographer's Formulary. They're a website.
Great resource
They're
for premixed
fantastic.
chemistry and certain raw chemistry for a lot of black and white photographers, alternative process, that sort of stuff.
Leslie, you actually have notes on this, so I can repost this as a blog, as a standalone.
Absolutely.
That would be beautiful.
In fact, I have done an extensive one on Xtol, which kind of, because people, I could get this in a liter before, why can't I? It's a little more history on it that way and
Right.
explains it. But then that's what I have on my shelf, and I know Matt used to use
Matt, what's your...
Obsidian Aqua. Do you still?
Nope. I'm back to it's all Pyro, all the stuff I use. I went back to Pyrocat HD. It's a great developer. I am very no frills. One developer,
What is it called?
Pyrocat HD.
Pyrocat HD.
HD. It's a formulation of a pyro-based or a catechol-based developer formulated by a gentleman named Sandy King.
Okay.
Down in, I think, Charleston, South Carolina. He came up with it. It's a very, very nice compensating developer. So what a compensating developer does is it's crazy. You can blow out highlights for days You can overexpose for days, and you actually won't blow the highlights.
Okay.
Pyro will... The classic example of it in Ansel Adams' The Negative
Yes.
is a picture of a light bulb, and then it's developed in D76, and then it's developed in Pyro, and in the D76, it's, like shooting any light bulb, everything's blown, like it's just a white
Yes.
ball. When in the Pyro image, you can actually see the detail in the filament in the bulb.
Okay.
So it retains insane amounts of highlight detail. But it is your negatives will look very, very flat when you scan them or print them outright. So you will have to do some contrast boosting in it. But I like it because it gives me all that information to work with.
Is it powder or liquid?
It normally ships liquid. If you buy it from Formulary, it's 2 liquid bottles. It's an AB developer.
Okay.
Same thing as Leslie had talked about with Diaphine. You keep it separate. I like it because there's 2 ways to mix it. You can mix it in water, and it will last. It's 1 liter of each, and that 1 liter will last a year.
Or you can mix it in iced coffee.
Close. The other, I was talking earlier, the vitamin C stuff. You can put mix the developer in what's called propylene glycol.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's used in sweeteners.
Nice.
It's used in creamers.
Yep.
It's also the main thing that carries vape. Like the stuff they put in vaporizers, that's propylene glycol. So it's completely safe. It actually tastes sweet to humans. I wouldn't drink Pyro, though. That's awful. But it will hold... I mix it in propylene glycol, and it will last for 3 years. And in that 3 years, I can do almost 1,000 sheets of film or 1,000 rolls of film.
Sheets.
So it's a one-shot developer, so a very small amount, like 1 to 100.
Right. And this is your go-to?
It's what I use all the time.
Yes, Leslie.
Well, I always thought of Pyro developers as really being a large format type of developer, and I never considered it for 35. Do I have the wrong mindset on this?
I use it for everything.
You do.
I agree that it's more of a large format kind of a developer. I like my medium format negatives in Pyro. I don't like my 35 negs out of Pyro, and I don't know if it's just because you've got less information to work with on the negative. Maybe that's why, or it's too flat on the smaller. I don't know what it is, but I really like it on the large format negatives for sure. So, and it's great for my developing regimen, which is a bunch of about 2 liters of working solution developer in a tray. And I'm just souping it along. But you can use it for... Pyro's a little bit weird. You can't do full stand development with it. You can do semi-stand, but full stand, sometimes you can get a little bit of what's called bromide drag.
Bromide drag, yeah.
It will kind of bleed out in areas of high contrast, bright highlight. So think of the highlight of the silver lining around a cloud, kind of bleed out in an image. So you have to be very wary of that. It's also not the friendliest developer for people.
Right.
So if you have pets or kids, I never recommend it.
Okay. It's nasty.
It's very nasty stuff. But I mix it myself.
Do you wear gloves?
Absolutely. Gloves and a ventilator.
Oh, and a ventilator.
Yes. It's very...
okay, so this is advanced.
Yeah. It's advanced, and it's one of the oldest developers. It was actually it was the first or second developer ever. They used it back in the wet plate days.
Okay.
I like it because... it lasts me 3 years. It's no frills. I have all the information I could ever work with, as so long as I expose it properly.
What is your go-to for 35 millimeter?
There's a local gentleman in Columbus, Ohio. His name's Mark Full. He's a great guy. He's a Rodenol guy, but when he does he does all the black and white in town for everybody else. He just uses D76, and I'm like, great.
So you'll just use a D76 for your black and white.
I'll use his service, and he'll do D76 for it. So, and it looks like I remember it. So,
absolutely.
There you go.
We didn't mention D76. I mean, Leslie, is that something that you would? I mean, you don't normally use it.
Don't normally use it.
But
The
you're
only
not gonna
reason I
make-
ever used it
Yes.
is because it was the only times I had for Kodak infrared. But this is back before Google days.
Okay.
And these things weren't highly published. I mean, and the only time that Kodak infrared gave on their package was D76.
No kidding.
So that's why I used it. But in lab because I've always processed my own and for other people. I just simply used Microdol at that time as my go-to. It's a finer grain than D76.
Right. Do you have any
used it?
information? My go-to is D76.
The developer I sell the most in the shop, D76, hands down.
Why is that? What is the pluses of
It's a
D76?
good general purpose developer.
there's just so many people that have used it over the years. Like Leslie was talking about massive dev chart. There's probably more times and combinations for
I'll
D76
bet.
than everything else combined. So, like,
It's-
you can always
yeah.
find the D76. Ilford Films will give you a D76 processing
Right.
time. You know, like
We have 2 new universities and a high school that do black and white programs. D76.
yeah, it's just
Flat
classic.
out, it's what they use.
It's the one I recommend for a lot of first-time black and white film.
Just hey, D76.
Yeah, here it
Yes.
is. We always have it in
Kids
stock at Midwest.
Slop it up a little bit, it still performs. It's a little old and they haven't done the count, still
Yeah,
performs.
the only tip is, mix it up, give it 24 hours, and you're good to go.
Oh,
And it has to
give
mix
it 24
hot, though,
hours?
doesn't it? Like 125 to get everything dissolved.
Mix it warm. Yeah, just let it sit
Let it do its
24.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
so,
another.
You know what's an ideal developer to learn with?
Yeah. A fun thing, just chemistry fun thing.
Chemistry fun.
With the Pyrocat, one thing that's really cool about mixing your own, it's normally when you're mixing chemistry, sometimes like the only cool thing is like a color change or whatever, but sometimes you get a really, really awesome reaction. When you mix up Pyrocat, the part A, part B is the reducer, and the reducer in this very alkaline developer is potassium carbonate or potash or washing soda. It's a hypersaturated, which means it's it's as much as the water can take of that. When you throw in a ton of potassium carbonate into water, it's a violently exothermic reaction, which means you can mix it cold at room temperature, and then it gets hot. If you
kidding.
mix it in like a plastic container, it can almost start to melt the container. It's really cool.
It's almost boiling, yeah.
Yeah,
It seems scary.
Oh no, it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Wow. I use my go-to is D76.
Great.
The FPP store stocks D76.
It's a solid one.
Now in a
Yes.
convenient 1 liter packet.
Ooh.
Yes.
Because
1 liter or 1
1 liter.
quart?
We have a 1 gallon packet
Uh-huh.
and a 1 liter
You
packet.
make a 1 liter packet.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I just found it. I use 1 liter because I develop 2 rolls at a time. It's perfect. My D76, I mixed it April of 2014. 1 gallon. Oh, no. I now, granted,
and I-
didn't put a lot of rolls through it.
It is so funny because way back in Walking Workshop when Keith Swan was with us.
the
and you
faces
could-
that he
Oh,
made.
my gosh. And I'm looking at Keith, and Keith and I are just cringing. Oh, he's just so... But,
So D76, generally speaking, even though I'm the guy that uses it, I should have the facts. I don't. Stock solution, a year? Is that okay?
I don't know. I would consider D76 by roll count, not by...
Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, see, it's
And
a
I
gallon,
think,
and I'm
I
not,
think
it's,
they say, what is it, 16 to 20 rolls per gallon?
Yeah.
A roll of 36 is equate a roll of
That's-
120
that
or
may-
a sheet of 8 by 10.
maybe that's why it's still good because I'm only doing 2 rolls at a time, and when I'm pouring it back, a replenish is going on since it's a gallon, and so that's why that jug, that 1 gallon plastic jug that's been sitting on the FPP darkroom floor for over a year is just still going.
You start to question your exposures, or the numbers on the edges aren't looking good. You'll know it's time.
Oh, okay. How many rolls, generally speaking, D76?
16 to 20,
16-20, yeah.
according to package.
Oh, okay.
And then, Leslie had mentioned earlier the false economy. When in doubt,
Throw it out.
oh, here
Yep,
he goes.
So, ooh. Just opened a can of Diaphine.
Browntown.
Browntown.
Αν θα οδηγήσεις, ποιες? Mr. Brown.
Mr. Brown, αυθεντικός καφές.
Matt's doing the.
Ooh, macadamia nut. Yeah. They all taste the same. They all taste the same.
That's interesting. So this is any other tidbits about black and white developer basics before we.
When in doubt, throw it out.
Yeah. Seriously, it's...
I'm sure someone out there has a question, and if you do have a question, podcast at filmphotographyproject.com. It comes into our general mailbox. It will get passed along to myself, Leslie, or Matt regarding the topic. I highly recommend you just have a go at it, processing your own black and white. You don't have to have an actual quote-unquote dark room. You really just need one little room in your house that is completely black, just to get the film out of the cartridge into the tank. Well, that's the tank that you develop your film in. Once it's sealed in the tank, then you do everything in light, which is great. So you really need just a small space. And if you have pets or children in the house, then you really just need a cabinet where when you're done, you just put everything in the cabinet, put a little padlock on it.
Properly mark those bottles.
Yes.
Once mixed.
Yep. I know a lot of folks that are listening to this show, they have started their own home processing.
What show?
And I don't think there's one person that does it that has not been satisfied. I see it on Instagram. The satisfaction of when you're done of holding up that neg.
Yes.
It's like you have your negative and now you're ready to scan.
It's yours.
It's yours, and it's somewhat instant photography. You go out and you shoot, you come back, you process it lickety-split. At night, you scan it, and then you have your beautiful images. So, thank you, Leslie.